Hi guys, this video is about the Piper Super Cruiser. Now I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on this aircraft, but I have just spent 4 years rebuilding one. It was a lot of fun, a real blast, and finishing the project and flying it was a lot of fun. So this video is kind of a recap of the project, and a subsequent video I'd like to get into some details about the Super Cruiser and its close relative, the Super Cub, and talk about some of the differences and some of the great things about both aircraft. So I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you. Picking up the project in Willow, Alaska. The tail section was pretty corroded, so we opted to just replace it with a new one. There was actually quite a bit of corroded tubing on the bottom of the fuselage from front to back, so I borrowed a fixture and we cut out all the corroded tubing and replaced it. Putting the frame in a fixture sounds nice and easy, but you can see from this picture some of the mismatch we had to deal with. So we spent a lot of time with the laser level and the tape measure and the original Piper drawings, as many as we could find. Here's a picture of some of the corroded tubing that was removed, and some of the tubing that was removed just because of some modifications that were going to be made. For this project, we opted to convert the original Super Cruiser landing gear to a Super Cub landing gear. We'll talk more about the advantages of doing this in the next video. The wings were recovered, and basically that's all we did to the wings. At some point in the past, they had already been converted to have flaps, and they'd already had what are called spill plates installed on the wingtips instead of the traditional bowed wingtip. So the next process was just to cover and paint the wings. Originally, the aircraft came out of the factory with a Lycoming 0235 motor. At some point in the past, it had been upgraded to a Lycoming 0290, and for this project, we decided to upgrade it again to a Lycoming 0320 150 horsepower narrow deck motor that I acquired through a trade, and this motor needed to be rebuilt. So at the end of this project, it's a zero-time motor. One of the upgrades we decided to do on this project is to install an extended lower baggage. So in this picture you can see the steel supports that were added to the frame and the floor starting to be fitted. One of the nice things about the extended baggage is that once you're done, you can roll out a sleeping bag and a 6-foot guy can sleep in that area, and you've got that much room to put baggage. Now you have to observe the weight and balance and the weight limits in the baggage, but it makes a huge amount of room to store. We made a modification on the elevator control system to change it to a Super Cub style system, because the original system has a push-pull rod and a linkage that's right in the baggage area, and you have to get that out of there to extend the baggage and lower the floor. Before paint, the fuselage had to be prepped for interior panels, so all the panels have to be made and fitted to the frame with any tabs or connectors welded to the frame wherever you need them, and hopefully you don't miss any. And we did, but not too many. So anyway, after all that is done, you remove all the panels and everything else that's attached to the airframe and bring it into the paint booth. After painting the airframe, I towed the frame back to my garage and damaged the tail section as I turned left into our driveway. This was a bummer and cost me a couple days in repairs. Here you'll see the yoke and the jack screw for the trim assembly, and you can see how much slop is in the original piece. So this had to be replaced. This is a piece of 2-inch PVC pipe that was used temporarily as a fixture for keeping the stick in a central position when we made the elevator cable. Okay, this video is going to focus on pulleys, bolts, and cotter pins. And we'll just go from the front to back. So the front throttle has the throttle cable, and you won't be able to see it, but there's a cotter pin in that guy. There's actually two, one front and one back. And then there's the linkage between the two throttles. There's also a cotter pin in that guy. Okay, the fuel valve, we've got safety wired, the bolts that hold the fuel valve into the bracket, and also the back bolt which serves as the stop. We've got the flat pulley. You won't be able to see it because of the way I had to put the bolt in, but there is a cotter pin and a nut on the back side. On the trim pulley, the manufacturer supplied that with a non-drilled shaft and a lock nut, so that's what we put on. Low profile nut, lock nut. The other lower trim pulley, we've got a nut and a cotter pin. Let's see, okay, so here's a left rudder. See the cotter pin there. We've got the left aileron. You see the lock nut and cotter pin there. And in the aileron system, I got the back left aileron pulley with the lock nut and the cotter pin. Elevator system, you can see the first double pulley there with a cotter pin. You can see the far rudder and aileron pulleys for the right, the rudder pulleys. No, I'm sorry. Rudder and aileron pulleys over there. Okay. There's the upper aileron pulley on the left side with the cotter pin. And these pulleys up here for the ailerons and the flaps, I didn't put any pins or nuts on yet. We can do those later. after the fabric's on. Here's the flat pulley in the back. Elevator double pulley in the back with a nut and a cotter pin. Got the wire taped up into the bottom stringer. There's our two little trim pulleys. There's our trim tensioner pulley. It's got a pin in it. There's our elevator single pulley, a pin. We got pins in our yoke, attachment bolts. We got a pin in the trim pulley. Got pins in these guys. What else? Oh yeah, back here. And these are, I believe, are going to have to come apart when I take these the tailplane off when we do the fabric. So I think those are going to have to get the safety wire will all have to be done later, and these nuts and pins will have to be done later. All right, I think that's it. All of the fabric on the project, and we replaced 100% of the fabric. It was all the Stewart system, a water-based system. A lot of the parts for the aircraft have improved immensely since the 1940s, and we replaced a lot of the older, heavier parts like the oil cooler, the starter, and the old generator with lightweight parts, and also lightened up the panel considerably and removed all the vacuum instruments and some other heavier radios and nav comms. These days things are lighter and they function a little better than what I had before. I was hoping to save some expense and use the original fuel tanks. They were soldered together, galvanized or zinc coated steel sheet metal, and they just leaked bad. I had them repaired by a local shop and they still leaked, so I went ahead and purchased a new set of aluminum tanks from Wag-Aero. They're the same capacity, same configuration as the original tanks, but they're a welded aluminum and should last till the Lord comes back.
Okay, you guys can go see him. Close the door. Oh, wait a minute.
Hi guys, I hope you like this video. I know that there's a lot of questions, a lot of information that I can't squeeze into a 20-minute video about a 4-year project like this. There was a huge amount of learning curve here for me, and so I thought if anybody does watch this or find it useful or is interested in doing something similar, you can just ask some questions. You can also like the video. You can also subscribe if you'd like.